Effective Use of AI and Decision Science in Mediation with Robert Bergman. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Hey everyone, this is attorney Mac Pierre-Louis. I'm a lawyer, mediator, and arbitrator. I work throughout Florida and Texas.
And I'm Thomas Giglione here in Toronto, Canada at We Agree Mediators. Have the distinction here to introduce Robert Bergman of Next Level Mediation. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, Robert, good to have you. And before I let Thomas take over with some of the questions and we've invited you to talk about today, wanted to welcome you again. And some time before we started this, we had spoken about your company, Next Level Mediation. So I hope to hear about Next Level today. And let's have Thomas go with some introductions.
Yes, welcome, Robert. And now I understand Next Level Mediation. It's a new platform, and it helps people find the best solutions for their conflicts. Robert is one of the leaders in the field of AI mediation. Robert Bergman is an expert in computer science and decision making. He has worked on many different projects for the past 60 years, such as mobile phones, satellites, and defense systems. He's involved with how artificial intelligence can help people solve their problems peacefully. Robert, could you give us a little bit more background and update about your Next Level Mediation and, how are you developing that program and to help mediators in a practical sense?
Sure. I mean, the whole idea of the system, once we realized what mediation was about, I had a little bit of background experience while I was working at Intel, trying to get international standards in place. So there you had to get maybe 100 engineers from different countries to agree on things. So I developed some methodologies to help people get to better agreements. And I realized at the time that there are no classes anywhere that teach people how to make logical decisions. And unfortunately, or fortunately, humans have evolved to rely on emotion in decision making, not on logic in decision making. And so the whole idea of the platform was to get people to make logical decisions about their disputes. And the way we do that is we use a variety of decision science methodologies and some support from AI to essentially get people to understand their own priorities, which your brain doesn't naturally do, especially if you're in a dispute, and to understand better the risks of going to litigation. And between those two boundaries, make a more logical decision rather than an emotional decision. And
I
so the
see.
software platform tries to support that concept.
I see. When Mac was scrolling on your website, Next Level Mediation, I noticed there were some publications. So you're a writer and you've written some articles. I'd like to touch upon those articles
Sure.
and ask you some questions about them and to get more detail. One of the articles was implementing AI in mediation, and that's a very practical topic. Um, in that article, can you tell us what are some of the benefits of using AI to help mediators and parties in resolving disputes, and some of the challenges and risks of using AI mediations? How can we address them? How can we avoid them?
Hmm. Okay. Well, I think since COVID, a lot of mediation has moved online. And the only change that a lot of mediators have made is use things like Zoom or video conferencing to get the challenge of moving online better situated for themselves so they can do the same thing they did in the office, they can do that online. The problem is when you move online, there are other things going on. So one of the problems is the feeling of presence. Presence is not just about visual cues, it's also about smells and sensory information surrounding you that makes you actually feel present. The other problem with moving online video conferencing is that there's no protocol for interruptions. And when you interrupt someone's chain of thought, it takes them 5 to 10 minutes to get back to where they are. And between those things and the problem that mediation has become more complex with the advent of social media, for instance, social media influencers, 49% of consumers who are online use social media mediators to make personal decisions. On top of that, there's a reinforcement of what we'll call multiple personalities. So people have religious, political, workplace, gender identities, a myriad of virtual identities, and social media helps reinforce each one of those. So resolving a dispute is more complex than it used to be, and moving online makes things more complex than in person. And
Hmm.
so the way the tools work is to get better information up front, maybe what people in call convening, basically find out what people really want, what their priorities are, what they're willing to settle for, and what their real risks are in going to mediation, because it's hard to get that stuff online. And so the tools basically make the process of online mediation or ODR much more efficient, waste less time, better at getting people's attention, and hopefully getting a better or more logical result. Now, the way this works is that decision science methodologies help not only keep the mediator neutral, but also the methodologies that help people prioritize what they really want. The AI part actually helps the mediator and augments it or assists or augments the skills of the mediator by helping them use some of those decision science tools, as well as be able to read through large documents more efficiently, find things that might have overlooked before. And so we use we use AI to one, assist the mediator and helping them read through documents, getting priorities straight, uh, making negotiation a little more stable. And then also we help the mediators, if they don't have skills in certain areas like analytical things, to do that a little more efficiently as well. Now, there are problems, of course, with artificial intelligence. There are, let's call them limitations. One of the limitations is really understanding the concept of intelligence. You know, intelligence is not just about what the AI system can tell you, but it's also if it can tell you something's impossible based on natural laws. And that chain of reasoning doesn't really exist in the current AI implementations. On top of that, there are issues of ethical concerns in terms of potential privacy, confidentiality, informed consent, things like that. That might be an issue. There are potential biases in algorithms. And the main thing is to realize that the AI systems are, for the most part, non-deterministic, especially the current large language models, and they can hallucinate, essentially meaning that they can provide bad information. So to avoid that problem, we always keep a human in the loop, which is the mediator, and the clients to the process don't see the direct answers of any AI stuff. It's only the mediator, and the mediator then can mitigate a lot of the risks that we see in current AI systems.
I see. I see. Robert, I understand that you offer a free trial to use the platform, and you offer a course for mediators to use. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the free trial and the course that you're offering, but also is your platform used in real time when you're mediating, or is it used as a kind of like a
Mhm.
preparation for the mediator before they commence mediation?
Okay, we'll take the this last question. Yes, it's actually both
Hmm.
is the answer. So
Hmm.
there's a certain amount of information you have to collect up front, which is what is the dispute about, what's progressed so far, um, things like assessing people's priorities,
Hmm.
having them answer questions so you can get a better sense of the context of the dispute. So those things are not done in real time necessarily, although they can be. For instance, you can take a questionnaire that the AI system generated, and the mediator can be on a telephone and just use that as a framework to answer questions. So that would be real time or a synchronous kind of mediation.
So like a
On
case
the other,
management, like a case management, right?
yeah, in a way, sure. And
Hmm.
then the
The
other part
intake.
of it, yes, kind of, it could be like it. Yes, exactly, kind of like intake. Now, the clients can or participants can answer those, whenever time they have. And then whenever that's finished, the system will notify the mediator that things have been completed. So you don't have to do this and sit in front of a Zoom meeting all the time. Now, things that do happen absolutely in real time are negotiations. And so when you set up a negotiation on the system, once you've established people's priorities and what they want to negotiate, um, then the proposal, counter proposal, that can actually happen in real time, or it can happen, when people have the time to make a proposal. So again, we do both real time and either upfront things that are part of, let's say, conveyance, or uh, other information that clients want to add during the whole process. So
So it's
uh,
actually the platform is actually tailored for online uh, negotiation. Is that correct? Rather than
yes,
in a boardroom setting.
yes, it's more focused toward online dispute resolution. And again, one of the other problems we're trying to solve, besides logical decision making, is also not to have to sit in front of a screen half of your life, right?
Mm.
I
So,
see. Okay. I'd like to touch on your second article, the paradox of AI regulation. You talk about, the paradox there. What is the paradox of AI regulation? And why is it hard to make rules for AI? Um, and can AI be used for good? How can we make sure that AI is used ethically? And you touch on this important topic about ethical and we call it now responsible AI. How can we make sure that it's acting ethically?
okay, so yeah, it's an interesting area because we've been trying to deal with this as humans since 1943, right? So, 1943, Isaac Asimov wrote a paper called Runaround, which kind of expressed the three laws of robotics. Second law was not to harm humans, right? And of course, we've had we've had popular media and other forms of discussions about this, and we haven't really resolved it in the last 81 years. Now, the paradox lies in the balance between fostering innovation and ensuring safety and ethical use, right? So, strict regulations may hinder the development and adoption of beneficial AI technologies, right? And conversely, lenient regulations might fail to address ethical concerns, misuse, or harmful consequences of AI. So, balancing innovation with safeguards against misuse remains kind of a central challenge in AI regulation. Now, from a global perspective, there's a lot of fragmentation. For instance, there's the EU AI Act that just came into being. There's a Federal Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Act of 2024. I think it's HR 6936, which had been introduced originally in 2023. And that bipartisan bill mandates that federal agencies in the US adopt artificial intelligence risk management framework, or what people refer to as AIRMF, that was created by National Institute of Standards and Technology. On top of that, China, Australia, the UK are all working on their own regulatory environment for this. And so everyone's the other paradox essentially is, restricting AI so it conforms to some concept of morality and ethical use, and then avoiding the problem that you may fall behind in AI, and then there's a security risk to the country. So trying to find a balance between those two things is complicated. And just as kind of a side note, we're basically asking politicians to worry about ethical and moral use of AI. By itself is a contradiction, I think, to some degree.
I see.
So,
I want to touch on another article that you wrote. A lot of lawyers and mediators are concerned about this. Um, the publication is Will AI Replace Mediators and Neutrals? So, how has AI changed the role of mediators and neutrals in the conflict resolution? And do you think AI can replace the human mediators and lawyers completely?
yeah. Well, the way I look at it is the future of online mediation shouldn't be envisioned as AI driven, but rather human centered, supported by technology. And AI and decision support systems can act as powerful tools to augment the skills of human mediators, but not replace them. This kind of collaborative approach can pave the way for a more efficient, accessible, and equitable online dispute resolution landscape. So, by embracing the potential of decision support and AI tools, like we've done in Next Level Mediation, while remaining kind of mindful of their limitations, we can create, kind of a future online mediation empowers individuals and communities to reach mutually beneficial solutions, uh, and foster a more kind of harmonious online environment. The skills that AI brings is basically it can automate and do things much more quickly and efficiently than humans in some cases, but the human elements of empathy, ethical judgment, and emotional intelligence are also critical to mediation, and AI really can't replace that. And so AI will transform the job of a mediator, but it will not replace the mediator.
Robert, you and I, we are involved with ICODER, the International Council for Online Dispute Resolution, um,
Mhm.
which we're both members. Um, you made several presentations on YouTube with the founder of ICODER, Colin Rule, to the members. And you can find this on YouTube. Please tell us how those tutorials can be helpful to the mediation practitioner to understand next level mediation to integrate into their practice.
Well, those basically were demonstrations over the how we've implemented AI in its use in mediation. And since we were the first ones to introduce in 2023 the use of AI in online dispute resolution, those kind of served as a context for how people might use them. There's originally a lot of fear, one like we've just talked about, that it might replace mediators, which we try to put that to bed. But also, people didn't understand because all they were using was ChatGPT or something, some other kind of co-pilot implementation or agent implementation of AI, um, how to actually apply it to mediation. And so those videos basically were examples over a period of time of how we implemented AI and how you actually use it to help resolve a dispute. Now, of course, those were in also demonstrated the decision science aspects of it because we tried to explain in the videos was that the resolution of a dispute was essentially a multi-criteria decision between two or more parties that had opposing agendas. And so you could apply the same kind of decision support that corporations use, for example, in making complex decisions to the process of mediation. And so those videos give people a good idea of how you can use AI and decision science in resolving disputes. Now, I think you mentioned before that we do have a free trial, which is basically a 30-day free trial. And included with that free trial, there are two classes, online classes, one in applying the tools to an example mediation, but also the other one is kind of a brief course in decision science and how you can make these kind of multi-criteria decisions more efficiently.
I see.
Yeah. Robert,
Well,
let me ask.
go ahead.
I
Sure.
noticed that on the video it was dated February 2023, and it mentions that you had started Next Level Mediation in 2017. So I don't think any of us, right, were thinking about AI and using it in mediation and conflict resolution. And certainly, I wasn't. And so, kudos to you for having been a visionary in this field for so long. Um, I wonder, looking back now, now we're in 2024. How do you how do you assess your vision at that time? Do you think you kind of got it right, or was the prediction of what you were implementing was what you were implementing predicted to come out as accurately as you had foresaw? Because right now we're 6 7 years later. What do you think it's turned out like?
Yeah, I think we're still ahead of the game. And I think, as you know, technology improves exponentially, but humans are linear thinkers. And so there's always a big gap between adoption of new technology and the state of the technology at the time, right? And I think we're still ahead of the game, that it's a slow process. It creates a different way of thinking about problems more logically, and that's going to take time. So, from a visionary point of view, I think our vision was right. Um, I mean, I had originally played around with AI in 1966 with a chatbot from MIT called Elijah, which kind of mimicked a Rogerian psychotherapist, basically, on a teletype machine, right? And so I've always kind of tracked the progress in AI from expert systems on, and but I was more involved in decision science, and so we first implemented the tools early on to help people make logical decisions, but then the AI to help mediators build the models for making those logical decisions because it, mediators tend to be behind in technology as a rule. So,
I see. Robert, in my practice in Toronto, I do a mix of commercial mediation, which tends to be logical and, very, you know, orderly and, uses a lot of logic. And I do a bit of family law mediation, and Mac in Texas does a lot of family law mediation. You mentioned that humans are linear thinkers, but in family law mediation, some people are really maybe not linear, but a little, sporadic and not linear in their thinking because it deals with a lot of emotion. How does your platform allow for uh, the the disputants to get back on track and think linearly and logically when there's so much emotion?
yeah, so the original idea of the platform was to for some short period of time, solve that specific problem. Um, because no matter how smart or how old people are, disputes generate a lot of emotion, and emotion basically hijacks logic, as you were just talking about. And people regress to this kind of early logic or child logic, which is life should be fair, I deserve justice, you should be punished kind of logic. And so that's all emotionally driven or kind of fight or flight kind of driven. And so the whole idea of the system is that you cannot be quantitative and emotional at the same time, because emotions are driven from your amygdala, a kind of mammalian brain, and logic happens in the outer lobes or neocortex. And so for some short period of time, by using things like pairwise comparison, we can actually make people quantitative, which means they're not actually being emotional. Now, they may not be purely logical when they're doing it, but the system can highlight the areas that are not logical. And therefore you can go have another discussion with the clients and say, here you said A was more important than B, and somehow now you're saying B is more important than A. Well, that's just not logical, right? And so by moving people to a different part of their brain, we can, for a short period of time, we can get them out of that kind of emotional thinking to more critical thinking, which then tends to be a little more logical.
Mm.
Getting back to the you know getting a win-win solution, and um, trying to get both parties on track. There's the issue of jurisdiction. Like, for example, I was drafting a partnership agreement last week, and I used AI, but I had to plug in the algorithm for jurisdiction to my province in Ontario here in Canada. Is there anything that you could do to tweak and jurisdiction in your program, and so it could be aligned with the court processes, for various jurisdictions that mediators might be working in?
Not really at the current time. There's such, because we designed this thing to try to address really a global market at some level, and there are so many jurisdictional differences, not only jurisdiction, but then, in the US, there's federal, there's, more state-based stuff. And the variance is so great that it's really beyond our capability to add that stuff in at this time. It's just too much information. And not all of it is accurate either. And
Hmm.
so the short answer is no, not at this time.
Could I integrate, let's say, ChatGPT into some of the questions that I would enter, or could I somehow, allow for that to be integrated into your program somehow?
Yeah, you could. And the system already, uh, the our agents or co-pilots are basically integrated with the OpenAI large language models, the Azure one, as well as the just purely OpenAI. And so we're working on ways now to add other agents, but that's not in yet. And so those you could possibly add a new agent that knew something about a jurisdiction. Um, so that just is, we've structured this in a way where eventually you can add your own kind of chat GPT type agents or plugins to deal with specific issues that might be jurisdictional.
I
So,
see.
Mm.
I see.
And Robert, we have a couple minutes left, so just wanted
sure.
to follow up. If people want to learn more and get started with nextlevelmediation.com, what's the best thing they should do first, and then how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, best thing is just go to nextlevelmediation.com or .ai, and it's the same thing. And then just go to the login, and then you'll see something where you can just register. And once you've registered with your email and password kind of stuff, you just sign the normal kind of use document, and
Mhm.
you'll see in the menus, you'll see something on the left navigation menu. You'll see the knowledge base. If you go to the documentation in the knowledge base, you can sign up for these classes just using a kind of a learning management system for that. And so, and it's you have to read through documents. You have to actually do some of the homework, and I'll grade the homework, and you
And
get a better
how do
idea of
they
how to use it. Yeah.
how do they reach out to you if in case they want to talk to you personally, or because whenever you are featured on some of these podcast episodes, people may reach out.
Yeah, so use my email, Robert at nextlevelmediation.com. But even on the large language, sorry, on the learning management system, there's a facility for asking questions and reaching out also, and so you can do it one of two
Yeah.
ways.
I really recommend for the viewers to go to the two YouTube channels where you have a tutorial before you start your course. I found those tutorials on YouTube. I could pause it and stop it because you could follow that. I think that's good prep for anybody wanting to take the course. Is there any prerequisite that a mediator would need, Robert, for starting such a course?
No, not really. It just, especially the ones on the learning management system, give you kind of a good overview of the whole area of decision science and at very simplistic terms. No need, don't have to understand any deep mathematics or anything. And it'd be good if you were a mediator and had experience doing that. Um, but basically, it'll step you through it and explain things as it goes along. There's no real prerequisites other than that. So,
Wonderful.
Awesome. All right. Well, Robert Bergman of nextlevelmediation.com or .ai. Thank you for that. It's good to have you on today to talk to us about the program as well as these articles that Thomas has, you know, helped you lead us through. So thank you so much for your time. And everybody, if you like these videos, subscribe to the channel, come back to lmipodcast.com, and we're signing off.
all right.
All right. And Robert, don't go
Take
anywhere,
care.
okay? All
Thank
right,
you.
guys.
Okay.
Take care.